let's get this party started. A little like state of the sales deep dive. Hannah, it's the end of your day. It's the beginning of mine. I've been like a little bit frazzled today. It's like not my normal nature. And so this is the perfect like centering activity for me is to get to have a conversation with you. Wait, why can't I hear you? Wait, we just figured this out.
It's me.
Okay, I was like, no, I can't do this.
It's me. I was like, you know what? I'll put myself on mute and then, of course, go live and be on mute. It's fine. My LinkedIn live 2 weeks ago, we went live, and we thought we went live, and we started. We were 5 minutes in, and I was like, we're not live, dude. So I was like,
just capturing the gems, but nobody's hearing them.
Nobody's hearing them. But yeah, we're here. Okay, I feel the pressure, but I'm going to make it happen.
Okay, it's going to be amazing. For folks that are joining us, what Hannah and I are going to dig into today is Salesforce's new State of the Sales report. They dropped some big trends. My take is that some of them felt new, some of them felt very much like, okay, sure, like this is the same thing that's been being said for 3-4 years. So I'm excited to chat through both like why are these evergreen problems and like why aren't they getting fixed, and also what is the new exciting stuff. And I'd even love to end with a little like place our bets on the future, do a little prediction here. What do Hannah and Leslie think is coming up? Yeah. Okay, cool. So maybe let's start with some of the more general sales trends that they highlight, and then we can move into some more specifics around like AI. They call out employee satisfaction and enablement. And I know both of us do a lot of work enabling organizations and sales teams and reps. So I think that'll be a nice meaty topic. And then I want to save a little bit of time for those predictions about the future. One of the things I noticed from the report, and I'd love to hear your take on this, is that Salesforce highlighted 5 strategies that sales teams are using to adapt to customer expectations. And like maybe before we dig into the specificity, like how good did it feel to read a report that was all about prompting salespeople and sales leaders to be more customer centric?
That should be the only thing that we ever read. There's nothing else that you need to do. I don't know why it feels groundbreaking to some, but it's like everything should orient around your customer. Or guess what? You don't exist. So it is nice to read that. There was also a few things that came up that we'll touch on, and I'm like, yes. And I've actually, sometimes you read data, right, and you're like, yeah, I mean, is that really the thing? But I've seen some of these things that have come up in those 5 topics. I've actually witnessed myself through the interactions I've had with my own prospects, my peer groups. So yeah, excited to dive into those 5 areas.
Yeah. I didn't even realize like the customer centric focus until I was working on some notes for our conversation, because it's such a default language that you and I speak that is how we orient all of our conversations. And then I had a bit of a light bulb moment when I realized, oh, but that's so rare to see in these type of state of sales reports. So kudos to Salesforce for doing what is right and good. Yes. Okay. First thing I'd love to get your take on is one of the strategies was consolidation of tools and tech stack. So I'm assuming not everybody that is joining us today has actually read the report, and they're coming to us because we're going to save them that time and energy by getting to the meaty, juicy pieces of it. So very high level, that consolidation of tools and tech stacks is just like streamlining all of the different technology you use, streamlining your processes, making sure that you are as efficient as possible with the way that you are utilizing your tools. And for me, I also always think about it in terms of like, are my reps actually going to use this new tool? Like it might be good and great, but are they going to use it? But here's what I'd love to talk about. Because I was reading that, I was like, yeah, cool. I mean, I was literally on a LinkedIn Live in 2020 that was the same exact topic, and it felt like newer and fresher in 2020. Fast forward 4 years,
Yeah.
why are we still talking about this?
You know what I think it has to happen because there's a lot of shiny new toys out. I mean, like, of course, AI, the investment in AI, so more people are creating and innovating every day. A new AI startup starts and then goes probably a few months later, or you develop some kind of AI functionality, and then Zoom or Google Meets are like, well, we can do that now, so we finally caught up, and here's the function. So it's a conversation that is going to keep happening, and we're still going to keep seeing like big companies acquiring the small startups. But I say all of that to say, a lot of companies are still not looking at the one or two platforms they have and being like, okay,
Mhm.
I can see that there's this additional feature or functionality in there that could help us to capture more of our need. um, and they're still not using it. Like, you see how much tech goes unused. Like, you buy a platform and then 60-70% of it you don't really dive into, and then they go outside of that to buy more tech, and it's like, yeah, but you could probably do at least the core functionality inside this one platform. So feel like it's just a reminder that, like, go deeper on the tech you have, because the cost of switching, even if it is sexier, is really high. Like, just going between loads of systems. I know people think, yeah, but you're at your desk, but it's like the different UI, the different, like, it's just a lot. So
Yeah.
if it can do most of the core functionality, if most of the core functionality can address even most of our need, then just, in my opinion, just try and get close to having one or two platforms.
I think that's a good take. Like, if it can get you 80-90% of the way there, and that extra 10% is not going to like fundamentally shift your win rates, employee satisfaction, whatever, it's probably not worth the money. And also just the headache of
Mm,
trying to integrate it and asking your team to manage yet another platform and have
yeah.
another log on. And good God, I 2FA everything. So when I get logged out of
Oh God.
like, it is a whole thing. I'm just like, okay, okay, you can do this,
It's
Leslie. Just like
horrible.
grab both of your phones, get all your passwords, log into your 5 emails. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus.
And you feel like, you know what, I'm just going to take the risk. Forget it. I'm going to make my password 1234556. I'm not going to 2FA, because this stress is a lot.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. It's true. It's true. Something else that popped into my mind when you were talking about like like switching platforms is also that, like, a lot of us sell SaaS, work with SaaS companies.
Mm,
That's part of what they are designing their platform to do, is like be really sticky and make it really hard for you to switch.
yeah.
So I think, like, we're talking about, okay, people have these big platforms, how do you consolidate them? But it made me also think, Hannah, about like, before you bring on any new tech, like, acknowledge the fact that like what they're going to try to do is be so sticky that it's extremely hard to replace them later. So be like 100% sure that
Yeah.
you are not investing in the, like, to steal your words, like the shiny thing, the sexy new like AI tool that seems so cool, that you're investing in something that you could see yourself using still in, 3, 5, 10 years, so that you're making a long-term investment in the technical capabilities of your revenue team.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. A lot more thought has to go into buying tech.
Yeah.
It's I mean, of course, I do consulting, and I've come in to help with transformation projects, and I've been I've literally in 3 months seen 3 different tech platforms being thrown over to me, and it's just like, oh yeah, Hannah, can you weave this into the strategy? It's like, well, I don't know, why did you buy this? Where's this come from? Oh, we don't know. We just thought we tried it because it sounds like a good idea. And then you've got a sales team like, what now? Like, they're just this. I do feel sorry for sales teams sometimes. They get such a hard time, and it's like, I get it. You are literally guinea pigs every month for new ideas. But I wanted to jump in actually, because there was something that I saw, and it's pretty basic, but and it's, again, I'm just off. This is not scripted, by the way, so I'm completely out of whack as well. So something about just the fact that revenue's up. So they were in the report, like, just hearing that, more money is being closed, more deals are being, well, not more deals, but more revenues being closed. But it does make sense because last year, the back end of last year in Q1, in a lot of the buyer reports, they explain that their budgets have increased. They're increasing their spend and investment in tech and services this year.
Mhm.
So that's like logical, but it's interesting when we get into like the performance. So it's just like more revenue was available, more revenue was closed, but then when it comes to rep performance, still like did the targets go out of whack? Like,
Yeah.
what's happened there?
Yeah, I was just looking at my notes to see what the data point was, and it says the report shows that 79% of sales teams increased revenue over the past 12 months. But to your point, we know that the majority of AEs are like just steady missing quota.
Yeah.
And I don't know if everybody's seen that data, but depending on where you look, like, RepView, Bravado, etc., I mean, like 30 to 50% of SDRs and AEs are achieving quota. It's bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, like what's the disconnect, I guess, between companies are increasing their revenue, but like obviously there's no waterfall effect where the reps are now getting their OTE, getting that pay that they were promised, which is probably why they took the job in the first place. I think so. So let me ask you this, because I know it's like we're about to enter the season where founder sales leaders are starting to like think about how they're going to mess up reps' territories. They're going to change comp again like they do every single year. I do quite a bit of territory management work with my clients, not so much comp work. Do you do either of those types of projects or like type of that? Yeah.
No, I haven't had to be. I've only on a review side. So a lot of what we've been doing is looking at what are the basically just mapping and assessing how comp is going to drive the behaviors that are going to get to the objectives. So so far we haven't really got into programs that are going deep on comp, but it's so interesting. Like you can just glance over one and be like, well, I can see why you're not getting your objectives because you're incentivizing the wrong things. But it is it's so interesting. You can see like that sales revenue leader sitting there like, how do I fuck this up this year? How do I piss off my sales team? Literally, like that's the objective. But it's true, like, but that comes down to FP&A, that comes down to financial planning. You look at the market, and this is why I always say that people do not spend enough time on that. You look at the market, you look at the macroeconomics, you look at the research, the data points, you find your trusted sources, you see that people are going to increase their spend this year, you see that the target that you had last year was missed. So maybe if we just kind of keep it as it was last year, more people will succeed. We can still, balance our budget, whatever it is, but the planning is not being done. And that's why you're like, well, more spend, we're just going to 10x the quota. It's like, no, then people are going to underachieve and then they leave. And then we see the problems that persists. But yeah, I know we jumped in, but I know that you wanted to get into the other point as well.
Yeah, well, let's stay on like the human capital piece, because I'm assuming that most people joining us are sellers or sales leaders. I mean, folks that are on this call with us, drop a comment even and tell us where you are in that revenue structure. Are you an individual contributor? Are you a leader? Are you a founder? Because I think that would be interesting. But one of the other like strategies, trends that the report calls out, which was like music to my ears, was that sales enablement and training is critical. They specifically say that it is the number one tool for employee retention and satisfaction. And then the report states that improving sales enablement is the number one tactic for growth. I literally like went and pulled that into some of my like proposal.
Yeah, I know. I missed out. I should have pulled that out last month. Definitely. Yeah, I love that. And so just to repeat, the number one growth tactic for sales leaders, not buying more tech, it's enablement. And I've seen that. And I said, this is not just a data point that helps to push a narrative, because I've seen it. I've spoken to my peers in enablement and they're talking about their companies are spending millions. These are millions on enablement this year, big transformational projects. I mean, these are companies that have, IPO'd in the last 3 or 4 years, where they're like, well, now we're at that stage. We need to transform everything. So people are leaning on enablement and training. And what's unfortunate is that a lot of enablement people got wiped out over the last 2 or 3 years, right? And they didn't get the support. I always say, who enables the enablers? No one really. And that's why there's all these communities. But if as a sales leader right now, if you are not investing in formal training in some area of your funnel, you're failing your team. And if you are in a company where you're going to your CEO or if depending where you are, your CRO, whatever it is, and asking for budget, I mean, a few $100s per hour even, or something a bit longer, and they're saying, no, you're in the wrong company. You cannot. I've literally, there's a complete black and white between companies that I have been at as a rep where they've had formal training and companies where they've had none. The performance is like black and white. You have teams and teams of underperformers and ridiculous attrition. And then you have people that just don't leave, and they perform well forever. That's just training and enablement. And it's not every day, it's weekly, it's quarterly, it's whatever it is. So you have to do it.
Yeah. I love everything about that. I can't wait to go back and like pull some clips from it, because I feel like what you just said was like, yeah, like any organization that is not actively investing in training and enabling their staff is making a massive mistake. And if you are a rep that works at a company that is refusing to invest in you in that way, I think this is a wake-up call, knowing that this report from Salesforce, one of the most important logos out there, has stated that sales enablement is the #1 tactic for growth. Like, that is a red flag to you that you're never going to achieve your potential if you stay in an organization like that. And I think it's also a great call to action for those sales leaders, for those founders who are stressed about revenue, because I mean, even though revenue's up, it's still, sort of down from where it was, right, in the boom times. And so I think there is generally like either a stress about like sustainable maintaining revenue, or I'm seeing a bit of a shift that founders are in the mindset of like, okay, we're ready to grow again, or like what got us there won't get us here. And often they'll default to still, well, if we want to grow revenue, we just need to hire more people, or we just need to have them make more calls, or we just need to send more emails. And what Hannah and I are telling you, and what this report is backing up, is that that's not it. It's getting better at those behaviors by training throughout the, throughout the sales cycle, and making sure it's customer centric at every step.
And it's just logical. So here's a scenario. I've got 100K.
But it's obviously not logical to people.
It's just, I know. You're right. It isn't. But like, I've got 100K, and it's for headcount, right? So of course that's calculated in a different way to how you're going to calculate spend. I'm going to go straight back to finance and say, I want to change that. Could you do your magic and make that 100K headcount training budget or enablement budget? And here's why: because I've got a team of 10 people, and if I can move the needle even 1% across everybody, they've got live pipeline. They already got their tribal knowledge. They've been trained. They're ramped up. All of those things. They just got to get better at those conversations. It's better than me bringing on a rep who's going to take 3 to 6 months to ramp up. And then by the time they get that first deal, it's kind of like, it's a weird deal, and maybe it's an inbound or whatever it is, right? And I'm like, I could have created all of that value earlier on inside that 6-month window. 100K, or let's say it's even 10K, 20K, is going to drive a significant training impact in 6 months than a new rep. I don't care what anyone says. There's no way one new rep is going to beat a whole team of kind of even mid-level performers with more training. But people don't do that. Leaders don't always have the balls or the figurative balls, right? We're not all male, to go and be like, I don't agree with how we set the budget. I made a mistake. Like, how can we figure it out? How can we change it around? Because if we do more of that, because I see so many leaders sit there and they're like, yeah, Hannah, I don't really agree with this. And I'm like, so why are you doing it? Yeah, I don't think we should be hiring more SDRs. So why are you doing it? It's challenge it. And then they get sacked after 18 months and they're like, man, it's like, well, you didn't challenge anyone. You didn't
Yeah.
challenge the CEO, the board, or anything. So it's yeah, this drives me crazy. So I've just worked with so many companies, and it's the same stories over and over again, and it frustrates the hell out of me.
Same. I feel this. I feel this in my bones. I read a really interesting statistic like years ago. Andy Paul sent it to me when I was like sort of spinning up my training as a side business passion project. No idea that years later, I'd be here as a full-time
Yeah.
founder. And it was very much that like the bottom 20% of your sellers, like there's just really not that much you can do with them when it comes to training. Like they're probably in the bottom 20% for a reason. Don't focus your training on them. Also, don't focus your training necessarily on the top 20% because while they will benefit from it, and while it is crucial that they are being invested in and they see that you are investing like in the culture and the leveling up of their colleagues, you're maybe going to get like a 1% gain out of them because they're already pretty much at the top of the game. But that middle 60%, if you invest in robust sales enablement and training for them, that the average uptick in performance was 6 to 8%.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So thinking about like, you saying there's no way that bringing one rep in is going to like fundamentally make a bigger difference than just investing in your existing team. Even if your team is only 10 people, and you can take 6 of those 10 and you can get a 6% increase in the revenue that they are contributing. That's going to make a big change for your organization
Yeah.
without all of the expenses and the headache of hiring a new person and onboarding them and getting them ramped, etc.
This is this is a blessing to my ears. So you got me here.
We're just both like, yes, this is it. This is it.
Let's
Okay.
do it. That's it.
I hope
End
everybody
of session.
on board.
What do we?
But it is. And so just to bring it back to the report highlights that sales teams that invest in enablement, the teams are better prepared to meet their quotas. When reps are well trained and have the right access to resources, they can engage more effectively with prospects and with customers. So you're getting higher conversion rates, you're getting more deals closed. It leads to, there's a direct positive correlation with increased employee satisfaction, which then leads to higher retention. So happier reps close more deals, bring in more revenue. So we are, seeing the revenue trend, tick upward. We're seeing retention increase. It's all good. So invest in folks like Hannah and I. Invest in your internal enablement team, but invest. Yeah, invest. God, there's so much. This report was so good. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about tools, though. I want to sort of go back to where we started, because one of the big things that was called out in this report is a focus on data quality and accuracy. And I would assume that the people listening, there was like a collective groan when I talked about data quality and accuracy. I think every single team I work with, every single rep I talk to has some woes when it comes to bad data. What the report says is that most sales teams face challenges with data that is fragmented, outdated, incomplete. Actually recently saw a LinkedIn poll from Ronan that was about cold calling, but he had asked in the poll, what makes cold calling tough? And it had hundreds of votes. And the number one gripe was bad data that caused low or incorrect connect rates.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, because the report sort of generally buckets bad data, but I would view it in two buckets. One being bad data that's coming from providers, and one would be CRM hygiene, which I then think goes back to the tools and the tech stack. And I would just love to hear how you're thinking about this.
Yeah, I made a note against that, and I was like, question mark, because I was thinking but it was tied to the question around AI. So I think we might go into that later. So I won't go into too much detail, but yeah, I think you're right in in that CRM hygiene versus like quality data from providers. And that's why there's so much like fanfare around the tools that can leverage, the tools that always act as a broker type funnel, or the pipes to get lots of different data in from different sources, validate that on the fly and make sure you've got the most up-to-date data. Like you kind of need it now. Like you can't, you're building up the energy to do cold outbound, to do anything. And then you're like, I finally got it. I'm in my mindset. And you make 100 calls and it's all like wrong number, head office, wrong. You're like, and then tomorrow's my not calling day. And now I'm like, oh man, I've got to now push out my, so I'd split it up like that. But I just feel like that is, I can see why that came up. It's a no-brainer. That's a massive issue because that slows down everything. It slows down everything.
Well, like, let's talk about the AI piece too, because I think that that's important. And so a statistic that's constantly thrown around is that like salespeople really aren't spending any of their time selling. We've seen some version of that statistic quite a few times. This report says that sales reps spend only 30% of their time selling. And obviously, for anybody that's ever been in an individual contributor role, you know that a good chunk of the time spent not selling is spent updating your CRM. Tim Davison actually had a really funny post this week because he's a marketing guy that was like, my apologies to salespeople. For my entire corporate career, I constantly harassed you to update your CRM. And now that I have to sell as a business owner, I have not updated my CRM in 8 months. And like, I'm just so sorry. I didn't realize what a hassle and what a distraction it was. So I think like one of the ways that AI should be leveraged by team is like automating the CRM updates and taking some of that like workload off of sellers. But I guess my struggle, Hannah, and maybe this is like indicative of the companies I work with and like why they're coming to me for help. It's because they don't have it all figured out. But the report said something like 80 or like 85% of teams are using AI.
Yeah, 81%. Yeah.
And I'm like, in what way?
I generally believe that it's still going to be related. Well, funny enough, it was talking about they're using AI, and the main benefits that were coming up from AI was sales data quality and accuracy. Then related to customer needs, so doing that kind of research piece, and then it was personalization, and I thought that would be first. That's where I was like, wow. So of course it's going to be a bit more like, let's get beneath the surface and realize how are they breaking up data quality and accuracy. But my assumption is everyone's using note takers, and that was even before the hype.
Yeah.
So that's going to be like, there's always 5 people in every call because there's all these note takers floating about, right?
I have 2 in every single call that I'm on.
Exactly.
2, just for little old me, solopreneur, let's say. But I think so. Like the 81% though did make me question the sample of the report a little bit, because you also work with a lot of non-SaaS companies, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I find that like non-SaaS companies, or even last week I was on a prospecting call with like a big logistics company, billion-dollar logistics company. They don't use note takers.
No, and but there is a see, Tony knows, but there is a breakdown in the report right at the end where it talks about the different industries. So there are still a lot of industries that they did do a good cross sample across industries, but yeah, I think note takers. I also think
like calendar links.
What you said,
Calendar,
yeah, it's gonna be stuff like that. But
it's like the basic stuff. I think like, so when I guess my take on it isn't that it was inaccurate, but I feel like it was a bit I don't know, like saying that they're using AI felt like an exaggeration of what's really happening. Like I wouldn't say that they're like really leveraging it. I would say they're sort of by default using some tech that uses AI versus like how are they strategically integrating AI like a Claude or Chat or whatever into into their
Gmail
work.
uses, I mean, all of the platforms, they would be like, oh, you said attachment and I didn't see an attachment, or like
Totally.
all of these, yes, all these platforms. Like, so yeah, you're right on that. It's a bit like, but they did say as well around the AI piece that people, yes, reps are using it, but one of the biggest frustrations is just lack of training and a lack of understanding. And I do feel like
Go back
for
to
the most part,
enablement.
yeah, right. So I think for a most part, a lot of reps have just had to self-learn and follow thought leaders on LinkedIn who have really built up big presence around AI and focused on it, or try and catch all of the announcements from OpenAI and Google when it comes on YouTube and stuff. So I think there's been a lot of self-learning. And I feel like if most people, if there was a question around where did you learn about it, like where have you learned and enabled yourself around AI, it was on my own. I thought that's just like kind of like the Office of Hannah statistics. It's not like accurate, but that's just what I'm thinking it would be.
Intuitively that feels correct. Especially if I think about like younger folks that I have been doing training sessions with, and I ask them where they're learning. Because like one of the things I like to do at the end of my training sessions is like continuous, like self-serve continuous learning prompts. And so I want to try to make them, direct them to things they'll actually use. And they are all obsessed with YouTube. And if you look at some of the top searches on YouTube, it is like how to use chat or how to use AI. So I think, intuitively that makes sense.
I have a YouTube channel, by the way, some self promo. It's I post long form content on there. So if anyone's interested, go to market, then dive in. Huh?
What is it? What's the handle?
It's just at Hannah Ajikawo.
Oh,
That's
okay.
it.
Making it nice and easy for us. I like that.
That's it.
I have found YouTube, this is totally unrelated, but I have found YouTube to be the hardest place to grow.
Oh, yes, same. Yeah. I've had mine for like 18 years and I have like 3 views on some videos. It's like my mom, me, and someone else.
Yeah, right. I feel that. I'm gonna stick with it because I like the fact that it is indexed by Google and that it does have a longer shelf life than the content that we might create for like a TikTok, LinkedIn, etc. But talk about really having to be like committed and resilient and consistent.
But like all my customers, I must say, just like completely off topic, but actually we can move into customer expectations. But people that have found me, where it's like a one call close, have been like, oh yeah, I wanted to book a call because I was reading some of your content and then I saw your YouTube videos. I think you're really knowledgeable around go to market and I'd like to work with you. I'm like, oh, so now I'm like, oh, what did you learn? Like, what? Tell me more so I can make more of that content. But that always happens. I've had people reach out to me and say, I watched your video. I'm like, that has 12 views. And it's like, yeah.
But you're being one of them.
Yeah. And it's like, I'd like you to train the team. And it's like, can I just ask why? And it's like, because there's a part in your video where I can just tell that you really care. Like, this isn't just like, I want to make money. You actually care. And I was like, yeah, I do. And I was like, wow. So I always think like, yeah, we want the vanity metrics and the more views do help. But I will say, Leslie, I had the most views on a video in the last week. So I don't know what it is about one of my last videos, but it's probably got more views than all of my videos of my long form videos.
Congratulations.
I know, look at that. Not quite viral, not on BBC, but on the news. But
not yet. You're not on the BBC yet.
There we go.
I love it.
Can we do customer expectations?
Let's do AI first.
All right, cool.
Because I want to talk about that because that is like a question I get like maybe more than any other question.
Yeah.
But first, so AI customer expectations, and then I want to do some predictions for the future. First, I have to tell you, just because I know we have a lot of salespeople on this call, you want to know what my lead funnel is this year? It is predominantly people who watched me on a video, LinkedIn Live podcast or webinar last year, followed me to LinkedIn or TikTok as a result of it, usually LinkedIn, have been engaging with my content since then, and then saw a catalyst post that made them realize now was the right time to reach out. Talk about that funnel. How interesting is that?
Look at that. I like it. This is good.
Yeah, right? Video. What I'm hearing between both of those, though, is like video. So if you're not already using video, making video, if you're not leveraging some type of video in some way in your demand gen lead gen process, that's not in the state of sales report. That's just in the state of Hannah and Leslie, our experts.
We should it's do in the appendix. If you scroll down to the appendix, our heads are there like tiny. I always say as well, like one of the best ways to book a meeting is to ask for one. Sometimes like cut through all best practice. I've done this with every team I've trained. Cut through all the best practices and just literally go on LinkedIn and be like, hey, do you want to meet about this and this? I've seen my team like book like 10 meetings in a week. It's the craziest. I don't know what it is, but it's like someone's like, I'm waiting for you to sell to me. I don't know where this is going. But when you're like, hey, of course, it has to be the right persona. I see all that crap. Like, you need to know that this is someone that you can actually sell to. But you're just like, hey, should we meet? Can we meet? Do you 15 minutes, 20 minutes just to talk about da-da-da-da? May not be anything. And I'm astonished at how many people say yes, by the way. Just let you know.
I believe it. And that's a perfect segue to personalization, because you know what's gross and doesn't work? Hi, Leslie. I see you're the founder at Sales-Led Go-to-Market Agency, and I'm so impressed with your incredible accomplishments in the sales space. And like, it is so gross, and it is such a mental spam filter, like mental red flag, that this person is obviously they're lying. They're lying to me because they have not looked at my accomplishments. They do not give a shit. So they are starting with a lie. They are trying to like butter me up, and then they're gonna go in to try to sell me later. So I can see why, just cutting through all of that nonsense, all of that bullshit, and being like, hey, relevant reason that I think it would be worth your time to talk to me. Would you like to do that? And just be a straight shooter. You're hitting the right person at the right time with the right message. You're just being direct. I can see why that works. But as it pertains to this report, the use of AI for email personalization, huge call out. They highlight 3 areas, which is enhanced customer engagement. So the ability to be able to like go look at previous customer data, and then use that to craft personalized messages. Efficiency at scale, which that's the one that I have the most beef with. And then they also talk about like improved sales outcomes. And like that one was more about like, I think like the HubSpot stuff where it's like, hey, most of your emails get opened at this time for your newsletter, so send it at this time, or like you've been messaging this. So I really like that one. But yeah, am I a cynic?
No, you're not, but it's freaking hilarious.
Just like I feel like I'm a get off my lawn sort of lady. Like I'm just over here so endlessly frustrated with the way people are personalizing, because like the primary way that I am seeing AI used to personalize is folks just like read the news back to me or have these like gross false platitudes. It really upsets me, as you can see.
One thing I will say though, but I don't know if it's the same for you, but a lot of that mass personalization, crappy, fake compliment nonsense, everyone's like, oh my God, you're an esteemed founder. Like, oh yeah, that's me. Most of it comes from software developers and where else is it? Software developers, lead gen agencies, which is very ironic.
Yeah.
And event companies and some of these network companies. Hey, do you want to join this and be a non-executive director and all that? Like those are like the 4 ones I see the most. When it comes to like tech companies, I've actually found, particularly with cold email, some of the companies that have reached out to me, I'm like, this is kind of relevant. It's not been like so off, but it's not been with personalization very often. It's just a relevant message. I'm like, guys, just, hey, looking at this, people will message. I can see that you work with a lot of tech companies doing go-to-market. Well, hey, we typically partner up with consultants to help them with data cleansing and stuff. I'm like, that didn't need to be personal. You didn't have to mention I went to university. It's fine. It's relevant. Get to the point.
And like, to be fair, that might be part of my beef, is that I teach value-based segmentation, which like I didn't make it up. I stole it. It's a marketing term. And then I've just like, evolved it to make it relevant for sales. But the whole gist of it is that I believe there are so few circumstances where messages, pure cold outreach, genuinely need to be like hyper personalized to a specific contact, that almost always, unless you're doing like a key accounts, ABM, like really, sort of warm thing, almost always just being hyper relevant by like building tight lists and really dialing in your value prop. That's enough. Like that's more than enough. And I think in a lot of ways, these AI companies offering that type of personalization, like butter me up, read the news to me bullshit, have done an injustice to the sales profession. Like in a lot of ways, I think it's set the sales profession back because they've made it easier to personalize, which everybody is being told they're supposed to be doing. And so then they're doing this activity that they're sure is going to work because that's what every guru is saying. And then it's not working. And then because it's also easier to scale these terrible messages, they're just sending more of the messages that already weren't working. So we're seeing a lot more of it in your inbox. But I also think you're right that it is coming maybe from like a handful of not necessarily bad actors, but like people that aren't taking the time to be strategic, to be customer centric. Although last week I got prospected by a very big logo, and it was some of the grossest, laziest outreach I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, big tech. I mean, you're getting us to be, I'm not saying Salesforce specifically, but you're getting us to be your influencers, and you're not doing good with this outbound, man. It is very bad. I've had the same thing with a few very well-known tech companies, and I'm like, what what is happening right now?
And then they're also like releasing like one pagers, like our 8 tips for a great cold call. And I'm like, you cold called me last week. And it was the first time in 3 years I thought about hanging up on somebody. Like, why are you giving tips to other people?
I had a scenario that was so bad in one of the bigger tech companies. I sent like 5 messages to the CRO. They obviously didn't care. Then I realized they were leaving. So maybe that helps to stroke my ego a bit more. But I was like, can I train your team? I won't even charge you. I was like, your customer success team. I said, your customer success team just put my client through 3 hours of torture. We had 3 calls because everyone was bad. I was like, can we do that again? And then by the 3rd one, like the director was just like, Hannah, we're just gonna have to figure this out ourselves. We're literally not gonna go and speak to the customer success team. So I was like, can I just train your team? I'll give you like 10 hours, just nothing. No, and they were probably like, go away, who are you? But
you're like, I will do this as a service for my people in the sales community.
I did want to say something. I'm not going to win brownie points for this, Leslie. You might have to edit this out.
But I won't. I will probably
the personalization thing. Can we just touch on? You may have a different perspective to me. I feel like this whole video at scale thing, the way it's being done at the moment, is everyone knows what it is now. Well, not everyone, but there's a lot of industries. The first time you receive a cold outbound video that is like auto scrolling your website, and you're like, oh my God, it's personalized. It's like, damn, that's so, they really made that for me. And I'm like, it makes sense, but it's a bit like the subject line, quick question. I'm like 18 more months of this. And if you're still doing that, people are just going to be like, take me off your list. And it's unfortunate because you might have a really good message. Like the other day, I got a pretty decent message, but the video thing, I'm like, you probably expected a different response from me because of that video, but I know what that is. And I know that it's not personalized. I know it's just video at scale when you just kind of like added your head there and stuff. And these tools are not bad. I just feel like they have a shelf life. And that's why I'm so big on fundamentals. I'm like, team, strip back everything. And if you just have the core fundamentals of sending a relevant message to the right people at the right time, and you got your value prop right, just like what you said, can we just get that right and let the tools help us do that better? And then, throw on the fancy stuff. But if someone, kicks your ass about, I know what that is, that tech is, we use it ourselves, and I know it's not personalized, you're still like, but I'm still a good salesperson. So And I feel like we're leaning too much to let's try and do everything at scale and not, I just want to create really solid all round salespeople. So yeah, I'm not going to win points on that, but
I think you are. I mean, you're definitely not going to win points with
I'm not.
with SaaS companies that offer that as a service.
Yes, I'm not.
But like the quick question reference is such a perfect analogy because quick question worked and it worked really, really well. And
Yeah.
I remember, Hannah, like circa maybe 2018, getting a video where somebody had my name on a whiteboard, right? And I was like, but that was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think like so many of those practices, they work really, really well. So everybody talks about them, everybody starts using them, they become very, very obvious sales techniques. And at that point, they just immediately go to mental spam filter and it causes them to stop work. So it's not that it's like bad, it just is not effective anymore because it has been overused. The two ways that I love to use video, obviously I create an insane amount of video between TikTok and LinkedIn and like all the repurposing I do. So I'll just I have a video for anything that I think is important to them. So usually I'll just send a little clip of a video, which is also something that I can scale because it's the same video. I'm sending it, very relevant. Or my favorite, I just was talking about this on a Sell Better show last week, is to send just like a 30, 45-second video after a really, really good intro call to be like, Hannah, it was incredible to talk to you today. What I heard you say is that X and Y are the two things that are most important for you to get right before the end of the year. So excited to partner with you on those. Like those are my passions as well. You're going to see that proposal in your inbox no later than Friday at 2 p.m. And then we'll speak again next Thursday. Looking forward to it. People lose their minds because nobody's doing that.
They do. That's what I'm saying. And if you want to do, I love what you just said. Like you've got lots of videos, right? You can just surface one. Totally. Me now, if I'm thinking if I was going in as a VP of sales or CRO to a company right now, I'd get budget to spend a few days bringing in different reps, people around the business. I'd record 100 videos. And that is all of our videos in a kitty that our team are going to keep leveraging. I don't need you to keep doing it on your own unless it's that style where it's like, I'm going to follow up and stuff. But I mean, that kind of cold outbound stuff. People want to see the team, not just your silly face. Send stuff
that's me again.
Or I find the ones where someone sent me warmly, did some great outreach. Their cold outreach was great. The guy that messaged me, he was on the website. It was a 1.5 minute demo of the platform. And it was boom, done. And he sent, and I was like, I got 90 seconds to see how it all works. I was like, well, this is pretty good. And then that was it. I didn't need you to be like, hey, Hannah, when you studied criminology and social policy, and now you're in sales and you're an esteemed I didn't need all that. Just, what is it? What can it do for me?
Okay, we got to take warmly for their shout out here.
Yeah, man.
I love that.
Yes, big tech. Where we go next?
Love that. Okay, last few topics here. Yeah, I want to make sure that we get to customer-centric sales processes and then talk about our big bet for the future. Okay, so according to the report, to build customer-centric sales processes, they encourage sales teams to prioritize understanding the business, the customer's business and goals deeply. Wow, what a concept. And to invest in the tools and the training that enable relevant, personalized engagement, and also to foster a culture where reps are empowered to be advisors, to be helpers, rather than pushers. I cannot believe that is the highlight advice of a report in the year of our Lord 2024. Help me. But it needs to continue to be said. So great. Thank you, Salesforce, for screaming it from the rooftops, even though it feels like the same shit that we have been saying for years. Let me ask you a really pointed question. Folks are listening, or I'm going to cut this clip later and we're going to repurpose it everywhere. What is one thing that listeners can do tomorrow to create a more customer-centric sales culture?
Leslie, I've been saying the same thing for 4 years. And all I always say is just, okay, so culturally, normalize getting your reps, SDRs and AEs, whoever it is, to ask buyers, just where are you in your buying journey? Are you like, I want to help you. Are you really early on in you just need help figuring it out, and you want to maybe do that on your own, have a couple of calls and workshops with us? Or are you actually at a stage where you have built consensus internally that you need to make a change, and you're like, I need real data, I need case studies, I need you to come in and present? Like, where are you? And that's it. And I like how Jen says something like, let me match your urgency. And it's almost like adding that extra layer, because the moment you get reps to do that, oh my gosh, you can prioritize all your pipeline. Oh, they said then they're literally just figuring it out. Even if they came in asking for pricing, visiting your pricing pages, they connected with everyone, and you're like, high intent, high intent. If they are explicitly stating to you, we're just early on and we're just capturing information right now, and you are saying, I'm not going to add you as my hot prospect. I'm not going to try and force this down your throat. I'm just going to help you get to a point where you make a decision to take action. Is that okay? That's it. I don't know why we're like, that is customer centricity at its core. I want to help you. Bit like in a store. Walk into a store, how can I help you? It's the same thing.
That's beautiful. I might just +1 that. And if I'm going to give a very specific tip, I would say, please, I beg of you, stop automatically opening opportunities once an intro meeting is complete.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
So I didn't grow, you know this, but I don't know if everybody knows this. Like, I did not grow up in SaaS. I had a much more like traditional sales background where I like sold some things and did some fundraising and worked in like business intelligence and worked for a branding agency. And I came to SaaS like later in life. And I didn't realize that like only opening opportunities when something was fully qualified, like that we had that conversation, asked that type of beautiful customer centric question, like, help me understand where you're at in the process so I can match your urgency, or as the kids on TikTok say, so I can match your freak. And like the auto opening of opportunities messes up the pipeline. It messes up the forecast. It creates, I think, unrealistic, like urgency felt from within the rep and like pressure for the rep, because now it's a pipeline opportunity that they need to manage, instead of being free to say, hey, I chatted with them and like they are a good fit prospect, but where they're at right now is still getting clear about the problem they want to solve, or like the jobs to be done. So this isn't something I feel comfortable forecasting in the next 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is.
Yeah. It's just a meeting. It's just a conversation. And that's why I always tell companies, like, make sure you get your value mapping done. So you know that at that stage, you map to people, map the needs of what they're likely to, map the things to what they're actually going to need at that stage. So you're like, maybe it's a bit of marketing. Maybe we push them into like customer success roundtables or customer and prospect, because they're just learning. Well, I don't need to be all over them as a sales rep. Then I can tap back in when it makes sense. But we don't want to not talk to them for 12 months. You know what I mean? But I always tell companies, when I sat with RevOps, did a RevOps roundtable, and I was like, they are more technical than me. They're going to get into the weeds. So I just said, listen, I want to help you rethink how you think about pipeline. Like, what is pipeline and what is an opportunity? And we just spent an hour talking about that. And it's just interesting because people are like, I didn't really think about that. Like, how do we reclassify some of these things? And it's not just about waiting, because that still adds to the freaking pipeline if you put something against it. So yeah, that's really important. I love that call out.
Okay. Trends. Get your crystal ball out. What is what's your big bet? What do you think is going to fundamentally shift the way we look at B2B sales in 12 months? What's going to be the topic that we're sitting here talking about next year?
I don't think it's going to be next year. Everyone moves too slow. Everyone waits till things break. I think, all right, let's say like the early adopters, there's a few things floating around my brain. So I feel like the infrastructure that supports sales is going to change. I think where companies are going to start incentivizing in different ways. It's not going to be the standard, how many meetings did you book, how many, because meeting is not always going to be the things. Pretty soon, that's going to be the highest correlation of closing a deal. I think that's going to, of course, impact comp. So all of those pieces are going to change. I feel like the pod system, again, it's a lot of the infrastructure stuff, the way in which we're structuring teams are going to change, and so will titles, but not for everyone. This is like early adopters. So we're going to see more like a bit like some of the things that I've been talking about in my newsletter, but also ComSor around like network development reps, market education reps, people serving their market rather than trying to take from them and take their time to give them nothing back. We're going to start seeing, and I don't know why we're not seeing more of this, but we're going to start seeing a trend. Actually, there's one other thing I would say. We are going to see the kind of someone's about the kind of like rep, the AI rep, but not in the way that people think like just like taking over the BDR role. We're just going to see them act of almost like BDRs are going to be more like growth hackers, and they're going to be experimenting with AI reps, which are going to be like, go out, test this message, bring back the data to me. And now me as the expert BDR is going to go out and just take this one message and go and deliver that. And it's crazy to think that people are dismissing stuff like that. It's like, it's a no brainer for me. Yeah. Why would I not do that? Test 10 messages on autopilot and then pick the one that wins. It's no different than split testing.
I love it. I'm curious to hear like folks that are on the live with us, drop a comment. Like, was one of the things that you trend forecast something that Hannah mentioned? Is it something else? Do you think she's spot on? Do you think she's like out of her dang mind? Drop a comment. Like I would love to hear what other folks think as well. I don't know if this will be the most significant by any means, but I will say a part of AI that I'm very bullish on is being able to use AI to do realistic role plays for reps. I don't think it's a now. I've tested quite a bit of that. Well, I've tested 3 of those products, and I haven't seen one that I feel is like realistic now. But there's some cool stuff going on. So if we think about the next 12 months, like that is tech that I think could evolve enough in the next 12 months to really help with like the training and enablement. I love that. I also, so like thinking about that value-based segmentation process, when folks are doing it at the highest level, it is a combination of like stacking, at least 4 to 5 firmographic layers with contact demographics, and then layering in 1 to 2 triggers. And today, a lot of that still has to be done manually. Like tech can get you part of the way there, but I have yet to see tech that gets folks all the way there and does it like, and it's actually honest, like real, like it's something you would want to act in. So I think that would be really cool if we get all the way there. Hannah, where can folks find you? YouTube, Hannah Ajikawo, your newsletter, where else?
Yep, and on LinkedIn. So still here, fighting a good fight, posting content on LinkedIn, whether they want to show it to you or not. Like Leslie, I don't really see your content. Like I don't know, it's just so annoying.
No. I have to go like every 3 months and engage with a like comment on a bunch of your content, and then it'll dish it back to me, and then it'll fall off again, and then I have to do it again. And I'm like, LinkedIn, like this is somebody that I DM with, I host lives with.
Yeah,
exactly. Of course, I want to see their content.
No.
Same though, folks, find me on LinkedIn. In addition to my regular newsletter, I actually started a LinkedIn newsletter 5 weeks ago. Got very excited, and I already have like almost 6,000 subscribers. So thanks to everybody that's already signed up. If you want to make sure that you see my content, subscribe to it. It is the teasers for my book. Working title, Earn the Right, a buyer-centric guide to pipeline creation. So if you want to get those teasers, you want to stay in the know about the book, head to LinkedIn, like ring my bell, subscribe to the newsletter, all that.
Ring my bell.
Hannah, hang on for 1 second after I take us off to make sure everything downloads for everybody that joined. Thank you. Thank you all so much, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for hanging with us.